My name was Amir. I was an imam, respected, esteemed. The pulse of the congregation echoed through me each Friday, but behind the reverence lurked an emptiness I couldn't escape. Nestled in the multicultural heart of New York, I led my community with dedication. But inside, I battled a haunting void that no number of prayers could fill. Then, on a day that seemed like any other, I faced my reckoning. As I stood before my flock, a strange stillness enveloped me. It was in that silence, amidst the cadence of devotion, that I slipped away. Not just from my body, but from everything I thought I understood about faith. There, in the shadowy depths of a darkened desert, I encountered an unsettling light, and the voice of Jesus pierced the veil of my soul, calling me by name. In that moment, I was shown a stark reality. The rituals that defined my existence were mere illusions, veils shrouding the profound truth beyond comprehension. I witnessed the intricate webs of faith, politics, and culture, all entangled in a cosmic struggle I had never perceived. I felt the weight of deception, a suffocating presence that offered comfort only to bind my spirit. Upon awakening, the world welcomed me back with stones of scorn. The very community that revered my name now heralded me a heretic. Friends turned to foes. My own family recoiled in fear. In my search for spiritual truth, I was met with hostility, guilt, and isolation. But through the darkness, a flicker of hope ignited within me. As I dove deeper into the scriptures, my heart raced with the urgency of discovery. Video testimonies became my refuge, hidden beneath the veil of night. In the shadows, I found others, lost souls like mine, yearning for a connection that transcended tradition. I began to understand that this battle within me was not mine alone. It echoed across the world. Now, as I stand on the precipice of truth, I realize I have a purpose: to unveil the revelations that transformed my life. I'm compelled to share my journey, even knowing the risks it entails. The truth beckons, and my voice may yet light the way for others trapped in darkness. Before we venture further into this revelation, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it now in your world? Please leave a comment below. And if you too wish to explore these hidden truths, subscribe to Truth from Beyond, because every story shared is a step toward redemption, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. In a bustling, multicultural neighborhood of New York, I've spent years serving as an imam, guiding our community through the intricacies of faith and tradition. My name is Idris, and like many in my position, I always believed that devout adherence to our rituals and practices equated to a deep connection with God. Yet as I stood before my congregation during Friday prayers, an unsettling emptiness began to gnaw at my spirit, a kind of dissonance that I couldn't ignore. The weight of societal pressure to conform was palpable, the atmosphere tinged with both respect and an underlying tension that whispered of unspoken doubts. One unremarkable Friday, after delivering my sermon, I collapsed from exhaustion, slipping into darkness as my body succumbed to the stress I had pushed aside for too long. In that void, I entered an otherworldly realm, and when I opened my eyes, I found myself in a place bathed in radiant light. It was here that I encountered Jesus, a figure of ultimate love and compassion. He looked at me with eyes that pierced through my very soul, and I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. "Idris," he said, and I was overwhelmed by a feeling of recognition, as if I had always known him. As Jesus began to speak, the revelations poured forth like a river breaking free from an unseen dam. He unveiled hidden truths about the world, revealing how the elite wield power over society, manipulating belief systems to keep people ensnared in cycles of deception and fear. I was granted glimpses of conflicts and wars fueled by misinformation, watching as the strings of society were pulled by those with the most nefarious intentions. Each vision ignited a fire within me, as I understood that the spiritual war wasn't just a personal battle, it was a global struggle for truth and liberation. Feeling the urgency of Christ's message, I recognized the need for awakening in my own community. The burdens placed upon us through obedience and tradition often mask the love and grace that should define our relationship with God. I saw how many around me were caught in the snares of expectation, struggling to reconcile their desires for truth with the rigid structures of our faith. This awareness filled my heart with both sorrow and determination, compelling me to embrace my calling, both to educate others and to challenge the narratives ingrained within our society. When I finally regained consciousness, the stark reality of my life hit me hard. The burden of what I had witnessed lingered in my mind like an unshakable weight. I was transformed, but I also knew that sharing my discoveries carried significant risk. Would my community embrace these truths, or would they dismiss me as a heretic? The thought of losing my family and friends was daunting, but the call to speak out and share the truth I had experienced was louder than any fear. I was determined to step into this new chapter, motivated by my vision of hope to rally others in our shared spiritual war against the forces of deception and manipulation, a task that lay heavily on my heart as I prepared to move forward. My name is Amir, and for the past 35 years I've served as an imam in a vibrant community in New York. I've dedicated myself to the teachings of Islam, guiding others through their spiritual journeys. On the surface, my life appears to be disciplined and well-ordered, encapsulated in the respect that comes with my title. Yet beneath the traditional attire and the facade of spiritual leadership lies a profound dissatisfaction, a gnawing emptiness that has lingered for far too long. Day after day I stood before my congregation, delivering sermons that preached faith and devotion, but inside I struggled with an unfulfilled yearning for something deeper, something more authentic. As I engaged in my daily prayers, seeking solace and connection, I felt an increasing dissonance between the rituals I practiced and the longing I harbored for a genuine encounter with the divine. The weight of expectation closed in on me, leaving little room for personal exploration. I could feel the pressure to conform, to maintain the image of holiness while grappling with my own doubts. The more I tried to find comfort in my spiritual practices, the more I realized I was merely skimming the surface of something far more profound. Then came the day that changed everything. During one of my prayers, as my mind drifted between the words I recited and the urge to seek more, I experienced an intense spiritual awakening. Suddenly the room began to fade, and I was pulled into a realm of light and warmth. It was there that I encountered Jesus, a figure radiating love and compassion. Amir. He spoke gently, and in that moment I felt an unbreakable connection, as if my very soul recognized him. He began to reveal the hidden truths I had long overlooked, exposing the deceptive layers that clouded my understanding of faith and the world around me. As Jesus spoke, the revelations flowed with an urgency that electrified the air. I witnessed glimpses of a spiritual war being waged not just within my heart but across the globe. The lives of countless individuals were dictated by hidden agendas orchestrated by the elite, manipulating beliefs to sow fear and division. I was shown scenes of discord, conflicts fueled by misinformation, people caught in a cycle of despair because they were unaware of the deeper truths that could liberate them. This awakening filled me with both sorrow and hope. The weight of responsibility pressed upon me as I began to understand that I could no longer remain silent. When I finally returned to consciousness, the cold reality of the mosque enveloped me, but I was irrevocably changed. The experience I had with Jesus was a call to action. I realized that I could not continue to lead my community without addressing the deeper issues that prevented genuine spiritual connection. As I prepared to share my revelations, I felt fear and anticipation battling within me. Would my community embrace the truths I had discovered? Or would they reject me for challenging the very foundations of their beliefs? In that moment, I knew I had to step into this uncomfortable arena for the sake of the awakening, not just for myself, but for all those who remained in darkness, waiting for someone to guide them toward the light of truth and love. During Friday prayers, I found myself increasingly enveloped in emptiness, a profound sense that something was missing from my soul. My name is Amir, and I serve as an imam in New York, where diverse faiths coexist, and where I've dedicated my life to guiding others in spiritual matters. Yet, Despite my outward appearance of strength and commitment, I felt like a hollow vessel, struggling to reconcile my inner turmoil with the fervor I displayed externally. The traditions I upheld began to seem like chains, binding me to a version of faith that felt increasingly disconnected from the deeper truths I so desperately sought. As I led prayers, I could hear the words coming from my lips, but they lacked the resonance that once filled my heart with conviction. I felt an overwhelming pressure to conform to the expectations of my role, a weight that intensified with each passing day. In those moments of silence, stark questions echoed in my mind. What is the true nature of spirituality? Am I just perpetuating a system that no longer serves the people? Each question felt like a stone dropped into a well, the ripples intertwining with unsettling dreams that haunted my nights. Visions of oppressive light and powerful figures that demanded my attention but offered no answers. The disconnection I experienced grew more pronounced, manifesting as a battle within me, a constant fight between the urge to voice my doubts and the fear of repercussions. I found myself wrestling with these inner demons, fearful that sharing my struggles would lead to rejection from my community. The isolation was suffocating, and I longed for a confidant, someone who could understand the chasm I felt growing between my faith and my heart. In my dreams, I often saw flashes of light and a figure resembling Jesus, who seemed to beckon me toward understanding, yet I remained anchored in my uncertainty. One fateful evening, while lost in prayer, everything shifted drastically. As I closed my eyes, the oppressive atmosphere dissolved, and I found myself enveloped in a brilliant light that filled me with warmth and peace. In this sacred space, Jesus appeared before me, radiant and inviting. "Amir," he said with a voice that resonated deep within my being, shattering my fears. In that moment, every doubt and every burden fell away. He began to unveil the truths I had long sought, revealing the hidden agendas that manipulate faith and bind us to a false sense of security. Jesus' revelation illuminated the spiritual war we are all embroiled in, how power is wielded by the elite, preying on our fears and biases to maintain their hold over society. As I witnessed the realities of deception that govern not just individuals but entire communities, my heart swelled with both despair and hope. In those moments of clarity, I understood that the love and truth he spoke of could transform lives, offering liberation from the invisible chains that bind so many. This awakening stirred a flame within me, compelling me to step out of the shadows of my doubts and embrace the path laid before me, ready to share the insights that could lead others to their own truths. The journey was just beginning, and I knew I had to act. On that fateful day during prayer, I felt an overwhelming heaviness surround me. My name is Amir, and as an imam, my life had revolved around guiding my community with compassion and intentionality. Yet, even in my role, I carried the weight of internal discontent, a feeling that had gradually taken root amidst the routines of tradition. As I began to recite my prayers, the familiar words seemed to lose their significance, leaving me more unsettled. It was then that illness struck me down in a manner I never anticipated. My heart raced, and I suddenly collapsed, slipping into unconsciousness. In this state of vulnerability, I found myself transported to a dark desert, a vast emptiness stretching infinitely before me. Confusion enveloped me, the silence punctuated only by a sense of foreboding. But then, a blinding light erupted in the distance, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. Drawn to it, I moved forward, feeling an immense presence wash over me. As the light grew closer, I recognized him, Jesus, radiant and filled with love, immediately inviting me into his warmth. Amir, he spoke my name, and at that moment, every doubt and fear melted away. As Jesus engaged with me, revelations began to unfold like petals opening to the sun. He imparted truths about the hidden agendas embedded in the fabric of our societies, revealing how manipulation and deception can distort belief systems to serve the interests of the elite. I witnessed visions of political and religious leaders exploiting the circumstances of common people, how our divisions were cultivated to keep us oppressed and distracted from the truth. Each revelation struck my heart, blending awe with urgency as I felt the weight of responsibility to share what I had learned. The spiritual war that rages within us, the battle for understanding and enlightenment, became vividly clear. Jesus showed me how the societal expectations and pressures I felt were simply tools used by those in power to hinder my awakening and the awakening of others. I realized that my journey was a microcosm of a larger struggle faced by countless individuals trapped in systems of deceit. The emotional turmoil of witnessing both divine love and the harsh reality of human manipulation filled me with both sorrow and a fervent determination to act. When I awoke, returning to my body amid the chaos of my surroundings, the clarity I gained remained etched in my soul. The truths I had encountered were not just for me. They were a call to action. I felt compelled to reach out to others, to help them break free from the chains of deception that bound them to fear and discontent. Yet, the fear of rejection lingered, still tethering me to the shadows of my past. I longed to share my experience but feared the consequences, especially from my family and community who, like I once did, often embraced the very traditions that hindered deeper spiritual understanding. The journey ahead promised to be fraught with challenges, but my heart was now ignited with a purpose that could not be extinguished. I was ready to confront the unknown and awaken others to the transformative power of the truth I had been gifted. Upon returning to life, the harsh reality hit me like a tidal wave. My name is Amir, and I am an imam, once revered in my community for my dedication and spiritual guidance. But after my encounter with Jesus during my near-death experience, everything changed. I had witnessed a revelation that shook the very foundation of my beliefs. The truths I encountered were both illuminating and terrifying, exposing the hidden agendas that often manipulate faith and society. However, I was not prepared for the backlash that awaited me upon awakening. The first signs of rejection came swiftly. My family and community, who had always viewed me as a pillar of strength, began to regard me with skepticism and disdain. They labeled me a heretic for embracing concepts that contradicted centuries of tradition. The accusations were sharp, filled with verbal aggression that cut deep. I felt isolated, grappling with guilt over my perceived betrayal of the values I had once championed. The weight of their judgment was suffocating, each conversation tinged with anger and disappointment. I longed for their understanding, but their refusal to engage with my journey left me feeling more alone than I had ever felt. In the solitude that followed, my internal struggle intensified. I often sat in my room, replaying the moments of clarity I had received from Jesus. The love, the truth, the urgent call to share what I had learned. The revelations encapsulated deeper truths about the spiritual war we face, illuminating how the elite employ deception through manipulative narratives that can keep entire communities in chains. I felt compelled to confront this deception and share the awakening I had experienced, yet the fear of further alienation held me back. Could I really stand up and challenge the very fabric of my community? Every encounter with those who once admired me now felt riddled with tension. I ached to reach out to others suffering under similar burdens, people whose doubts were silenced by the fear of societal repercussions. They too deserved to hear about the awakening I had undergone and the truths unearthed by Jesus. In hushed conversations with a few trusted friends, I tentatively shared snippets of my vision, igniting a flicker of hope. Each shared story kindled a sense of belonging, reaffirming my belief that there were others willing to seek the truth, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the days turned into weeks, the urgency of my mission became undeniable. I realized that I needed to find my voice, to articulate the revelations that had transformed my understanding of faith and spirituality. The road to reconciliation with my family still loomed dauntingly ahead, and the fear of their rejection would always linger in the back of my mind. However, The flame of truth that had sparked within me was relentless, compelling me to step forward boldly. The world around us was fraught with challenges, but in the midst of that chaos, I felt empowered by the knowledge that the path to awakening was always available, ready to illuminate the lives of those who dare to seek it. In the quiet moments after my near-death experience, I found myself grappling with an insatiable hunger for truth. My name is Amir, and for years I served as an imam, cherished in my community for my dedication to faith and tradition. Yet beneath the surface, I battled an unsettling emptiness, a disconnection that grew more pronounced with each passing prayer. The words that once brought comfort felt increasingly hollow, as if they were shrouded in a layer of deception that obscured the deeper truths I sensed looming beyond my understanding. After that transformative experience where I met Jesus, I felt an undeniable calling to explore the Word in ways I had never dared before. Clandestinely, I began to delve into the Bible, each page resonating with meaning I had long overlooked. I watched testimonies of conversion online, hearing the stories of others whose lives had been radically changed by embracing faith in Christ. Each narrative brought me a measure of peace, reminding me that I was not alone in my quest for awakening. Yet, with every step I took toward embracing this new path, fear began to gnaw at my heart. What would happen if my family discovered my explorations? The thought of losing the cultural security I had come to rely on left me trembling. I soon learned about a small support group of individuals who shared similar experiences, people who, like me, were navigating the intricate layers of faith and doubt. We gathered in secret, creating a sanctuary where we could voice our questions and fears without judgment. Sharing my journey among them felt healing, each story merging into a collective understanding that challenged the hidden agendas that often dictated our lives. Together, we discussed the spiritual war we found ourselves in, combating the tactics of the elite that sought to divide and control us through fear and misinformation. With each meeting, the revelation of how deeply we'd all been affected by societal deception became clear. I realized how the structures we blindly accepted often masked the essence of Jesus' teachings: love, compassion, and the call to truth. I felt a renewed sense of purpose emerging from the depths of my faith struggle. Still, concerns lingered. Could I publicly embrace these revelations without the fear of being ostracized? Could I truly break free from the chains of expectation without losing everything I held dear? The tension between my longing for connection and the pressure to conform grew sharper, leaving me to wonder which path would lead me closer to the divine light I sought. The pain of potentially abandoning my family weighed heavily on my heart. I longed for their acceptance and understanding, as my journey into this new faith put me at risk of not only losing their love, but also disrupting the bonds that have tethered us together for so long. Yet as I delved deeper into my faith, I felt the truth of my experiences compel me forward. With every discovery, I understood that the only way to truly honor the love and revelations I received was to share them. And that sharing could be the catalyst for others to awaken from their slumber. The anxiety of what lay ahead began to transform into a sense of urgency. I knew I had a mission to fulfill, even if it led me into the very depths of fear that once controlled me. The journey was only beginning, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next, driven by the light of Jesus illuminating the path before me. Realizing that my experience signified a divine calling was both exhilarating and terrifying. My name is Amir, and for years I've been an imam in New York, deeply immersed in my faith and the guidance of my community. However, after the life-altering encounter with Jesus during my near-death experience, I understood clearly that the truths I'd uncovered would not allow me to remain silent. The weight of this revelation was immense. But I knew I had a responsibility to share the messages I'd received, even if it meant risking my safety and relationships. The days that followed my awakening were filled with turmoil. My heart raced as I reflected on my journey and the spiritual war that enveloped my life. I began to grasp the hidden agendas that often manipulate those around me. The deceptive narratives crafted by the elite aimed at maintaining control and keeping people divided. Shadows of doubt initially clouded my mind, and I wrestled with the fear of being labeled a heretic. The prospect of sharing these truths with my community felt daunting, but the thought of letting others continue in ignorance hurt even more. I spent hours alone, poring over the Bible and seeking guidance through prayer. The words suddenly held new meaning as I felt a deep connection to the teachings of Jesus. They illuminated paths for healing and understanding, echoing the truths that had been revealed to me during my encounter. But that serenity was often interrupted by flashes of anxiety about the repercussions of bearing witness. Would my family disown me? Would my community turn its back on me? Each potential outcome began to weigh heavily, yet I remained resolute in my mission. Sharing my revelation became my driving force, a beacon of light that guided me through the uncertainty. I sought out others who had also experienced spiritual awakenings, forming a small network that felt like a refuge. We met quietly, exchanging stories and the hurdles we faced. It was in these circles that I found the courage to vocalize my truth. We discussed the spiritual war we all faced, recognizing that many around us remained trapped in cycles of fear and deceit. It felt exhilarating to know that together we could challenge the structures that sought to divide us and reclaim our faith. The urgency of my mission propelled me forward, igniting a passion for change that I could no longer ignore. Each testimony I heard from within our group further fueled my determination. It was clear, the awakening must continue. I had to confront the realities of my life, knowing that if I chose silence over sharing, I would be complicit in the deception allowing so many to suffer. Embracing my new path wouldn't be easy, but as I looked around at the faces of fellow seekers, I knew that the journey ahead was not just my own. It was a collective quest for truth, a quest to dismantle the lies and illuminate the way for those ensnared in the dark. The decision to leave my home felt monumental and terrifying. My name is Amir, and I've lived my life as an imam in New York, where I've guided my community through the complexities of faith. Yet, despite the respect I garnered, I felt increasingly constrained by the very traditions I once held dear. Following my encounter with Jesus, an experience that shattered my previous understanding, I knew I had to rediscover my spiritual freedom. I felt the weight of revelation pressing down on me, urging me to break free from the shackles of expectation and conformity. Relocating to a new area was both a symbolic and literal fresh start for me. As I left behind the familiar faces of my community, I experienced a mix of liberation and heartbreak. I understood that my choice came with consequences. My family and friends would see me as a renegade, perhaps even a traitor. Still, the call to share the truth I had discovered was undeniable. The spiritual war one had become aware of was not just a personal struggle. It was a battle for the very soul of my community and the larger world we inhabit. I felt compelled to fight against the hidden agendas that manipulated faith and kept people in darkness. Throughout this transition, I delved deeply into the teachings of Jesus, immersing myself in the insights I had gained during my near-death experience. He had shown me how to peel back the layers of deception that often mask the truth of our existence. In my heart, I held on to the knowledge that every person I encountered was engaged in their own version of this spiritual war, often unaware of the forces shaping their beliefs and decisions. Each interaction became more meaningful, and I sought to inspire others to awaken to the reality that lay before them. As I began to share my story with others seeking truth, I witnessed the outpouring of emotion and passion they brought to our discussions. Individuals gathered, longing for the same awakening I had experienced. I spoke of the manipulation perpetrated by the elite, exposing the societal and political dynamics at play. I saw the spark of understanding in their eyes as they began to recognize the deceptions entwined within their own beliefs and experiences. It was exhilarating and reaffirming, yet the fear of backlash still lurked in the corners of my mind, reminding me of the life I had bonded with so deeply. Despite my fears, I understood that silence would only perpetuate the cycle of confusion. I felt a responsibility to continue speaking out, to be brave in sharing the truth that Jesus had revealed to me. My journey was no longer solely about my own awakening. It was about rallying others to open their eyes and break free from the chains of ignorance. I stood at the forefront of a growing movement, feeling the weight of both hope and anxiety. The spiritual war around us demanded our attention. I was committed to being a voice for those who felt they could not speak, ready to lead others toward the light of understanding that had changed my life forever. The journey was ongoing, and I knew that challenges would arise, but the truth I had discovered would forever serve as my guide. Years later, I find myself leading a new Christian community, a role that fills my heart with both purpose and bittersweet longing. My name is Amir, and after my encounter with Jesus during my near-death experience, everything changed. The transformation ignited a fire within me, compelling me to share the truth I had discovered about faith, love, and the reality of the spiritual war we are all embroiled in. Each week I stand before a group of eager souls, sharing the revelations that I believe can free them from the chains of deception that have bound so many, myself included. As I guide this community, I often feel the tension between my new identity and the remnants of my past life. The respect and reverence I once held within my family and mosque have been replaced by a silence that weighs heavily on me. I yearn for reconciliation, not just for my own sake, but for the love we once shared. Yet I also recognize that this new path is crucial for my spiritual awakening. The truths I've uncovered are invaluable, and I feel a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that brought me to this point. Each person I meet who resonates with my message reaffirms that I am where I need to be. In our gatherings, I describe the hidden agendas I have come to understand, the motives of the elite who exploit faith and sow division among us. Each revelation is met with a mixture of awe and confusion, and I do my best to unpack the layers of deception that cloud our understanding of spirituality. We live in a world rife with manipulation, where the very structures that should nurture our souls often contribute to our fragmentation. I share stories of the spiritual war that rages silently, an unseen battle for the hearts and minds of individuals everywhere. The emotional echoes of my encounter with Jesus linger in my mind, spurring me to reclaim my voice in a society that often tries to silence dissent. I remind my community that love and truth can coexist, even in the face of opposing forces. With each discussion, I witness flickers of awakening in the faces around me, people reaching for understanding, yearning to break free from long-held beliefs that no longer serve them. It's invigorating and humbling to be part of this transformation, yet I am filled with a sense of urgency. I know that as more people awaken to these truths, we must prepare for the inevitable pushback from those who feel threatened by such revelations. Despite my achievements and the lives I am beginning to influence, the yearning for my family's acceptance remains a heavy burden. I understand their concern and fear, but I cannot turn away from the truth that has set me free. The love I have for them keeps me grounded, but it also fuels my desire to show them the light I've found. As I stand firm in my convictions, balancing the need for connection with the duty to proclaim the truth becomes my greatest challenge. The path ahead is fraught with obstacles, but I am ready to face them, driven by the hope that my testimony can ignite awakenings and foster healing, not just for myself, but for those still trapped in the shadows of fear and deception. The moral message of my journey underscores the reality that while religion can often feel confining, the quest for truth leads to liberation. My name is Amir, and I've spent years as an imam in New York, guiding my community through the teachings of Islam. Despite appearing devout and knowledgeable, I found myself ensnared in a web of expectations that felt increasingly suffocating. I was wrestling with an internal conflict, striving to satisfy the roles imposed by my culture, while yearning for a deeper connection to the divine. I realized that my spiritual war was not just within myself, but reflected the larger struggles many face in society. One pivotal moment came during Friday prayer, a time set aside for reflection and spiritual communion. However, as I led the prayers, instead of feeling the peace that normally enveloped me, I felt more disconnected than ever. The rituals that were once a source of comfort now felt hollow. That day, a surge of anxiety gripped me, and as I knelt in prayer, my heart raced with confusion and fear. In that moment of vulnerability, I fainted, collapsing into darkness, and my essence was pulled into an ethereal realm. It was here, in this surreal landscape, that I encountered Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, radiating compassion and love that pierced the shadows surrounding me. "Amir," he said softly, and in that instant, the weight of my doubts melted away. He began to reveal profound truths about the world I inhabit, truths about the hidden agendas that manipulate us, the elite who orchestrate division while masquerading as leaders of our faith. I felt a rush of emotions, fear, anger, and profound relief, as the revelation unfolded before me like a mosaic of light. Jesus showed me the intricate connections between spirituality and the societal structures that often hinder true enlightenment. I was granted visions of conflicts stirred by division, wars fueled by propaganda, and the realms of deception perpetuated by those in power. Each revelation ignited a sense of urgency within me, compelling me to confront the systems that had governed my life and the lives of others. I understood that this spiritual awakening wasn't just for me. It was a calling to embrace my true self and to guide others toward their own journeys of discovery. When I awoke, everything felt changed. My life had shifted dramatically, and the fear of judgment from my family and the community weighed heavily on my heart. I realized the cost of embracing the truth I had discovered could mean losing the very fabric of my former life. However, it was the love and freedom I encountered in that encounter with Jesus that propelled me forward. I knew I had to share my experience, to help others wake up to the spiritual truths that could liberate them from the chains of tradition and deception. The road ahead was fraught with potential rejection, but I felt a deep conviction to move forward, ready to face the journey of awakening that lay ahead, fueled by the light of truth and the love I had been shown. Now that you've walked with me through this journey, I want to leave you with a thought that has consumed my mind since that fateful moment. What if the spiritual battles we face are merely reflections of a greater cosmic struggle unfolding all around us? Are we merely pawns in a game we don't fully understand? Or are we meant to be awakened warriors, embracing the truth that Christ so passionately shared with us? I stand before you transformed by the light of Jesus, realizing that we are all part of something monumental, something that transcends our individual lives. We are not alone in this struggle. We are all connected in a tapestry woven with threads of love, pain, and the quest for truth. But the question is, are we willing to confront the forces of deception pulling at our hearts and minds? Your experiences, your thoughts, take a moment to share them in the comments. I read every word, and your voice matters. If this message resonated with you, I urge you, don't just walk away. Subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit the notification bell, because the path ahead is filled with revelations that you won't want to miss. Each story shared here holds the potential to awaken another soul, potently forging a community driven by understanding, acceptance, and spiritual growth. As we continue this journey together, I'll invite you to explore testimonies of others who stood at the precipice of awakening. In our next video, you'll hear from someone who experienced profound miracles that shifted their understanding of faith forever. I'm Amir, and I want to thank you for joining me on this exploration of truth. Remember, we are all seekers, and the light we chase can illuminate the darkness, not just within ourselves, but in the world around us. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep seeking the truth beyond the veil.